Hello, everyone. Welcome to the North to South podcast. I nearly forgot the title then because it's been a couple of weeks since we've last been on here. So we've got a lot to go through. Obviously, I am your host, or should I say, I've just become the host because it's taken on that role. I am Craig. And Tom, if you want to say hello.
Hello, everyone. We're coming to you this Monday night. It's a very, very hot day here, so I look a bit more redder than usual. And my sweat is falling down my forehead, so I'll try and do my best to not melt by the end of the show.
That's probably why you haven't wore a red shirt, so you don't blend in with it. Doesn't look like a green screen or something like that. So whoever's stuck with us, thank you very much. It has been a tough couple of weeks to get this show on the road, and we do need to do a little bit more in the background. But come the new season, more ideas and more things coming about. We'll hopefully get that together. So obviously the Premier League season is officially over. Apologies, by the way, if I'm looking away from the camera. My notes are to the right of me, so just to make you aware. So obviously the Premier League is officially over come this weekend. And Arsenal lifted the trophy after Manchester City's draw. Was it a draw or lose midweek to Burnley? I think it was a draw. Not Burnley. I don't even know what about it. It's been a long week. But obviously Arsenal lifted the trophy after that. Manchester City dropping points. And they beat Crystal Palace this weekend. Pep Guardiola has taken charge of Manchester City for the last time. Liverpool said an emotional goodbye to two of their players, and the relegation battle went right down to the last day. Aston Villa had some cup competition victory in the week. Chelsea had an absolute mare again. And we've also got Thomas Tuchel making some huge calls. And then we're going to look ahead to the Champions League final this coming weekend. So let's get into it before we run absolutely over time and it takes forever to edit this video. Tom, I'm going to bring you into this one. Arsenal finally lift the Premier League trophy after 22 years. Not with a 2-1 win at Selhurst Park, but they did beat Crystal Palace. And Tom's got his alcohol-free, I'm assuming, Tom.
Yes, alcohol-free, but red.
Red. He's got his red.
North London forever.
Red cranberry juice going on the go there. That's to party hard. It was a makeshift Arsenal team because obviously they've got a big game coming up at the weekend. Yeah. How does it feel, Tom? That's the main question. How does it feel after being?
It's fantastic, really. Yeah, just I mean, it was amazing the fact that we won it basically after City drew to Burnley was just really kind of was just fantastic and just gave a bit of the players just a bit of a chill because they could just afford to really just not really worry about this last game against Palace. And so that's why they sort of just changed a lot of players around to rest the key players for PSG game for Champions League next week on Saturday, which I'm very looking forward to. And I'm thinking it's going to be 70% chance that Arsenal are going to win and 30 to PSG. So I'm fairly confident that Arsenal can put it out the bag, and it'd just be glorious for Arsenal and Mikel and the whole journey they've been through, with Mikel from 8th to now 1st in the past 6 years. It's incredible, really great stuff.
We'll go on to the Champions League game a little bit later on, and I'll bring up that bit you just mentioned. Obviously, you're not going to even bother with this question because they've just won the Premier League. But is one Premier League? I know, obviously, they won the FA Cup in his first half season. A lot of the work Emery done, but is one trophy in a full season enough after 6 years? I mean, people, Arsenal. This is a question. This is more of a pundit question. The Arsenal, like yourself, say it's been a long journey, but a lot of teams get a manager in and they change the fortunes pretty quickly. Is one trophy in a full season enough in 6 years?
I think in this instance, yes, because you see how Arsenal were towards the end of Wenger's era. They sort of, were around 8th, and then it went up, and then so he had to sort of change the team. He had to change a bit of the culture because there were a few egos in the team, which he had to sort of get out eventually, basically essentially, and to sort of make it his team. I think it's also good for football in general that you have clubs or the directors are willing to actually put in the effort and trust a manager, and trust that they'll bring you titles, and it takes time to do these things, especially when you're up against the competition of Pep and before Klopp, and so I think it's enough. Plus the other sort of thing to that question is I think Arsenal, now that they've won one and their squad depth is really key, and they're looking to buy other players, I think, in the summer, then I think they'll go and win a fair few more, basically league titles and FA Cups and League Cups and hopefully Champions League as well.
Yeah, okay, that's good. So where does this, you've got to think back now since 2004, where does this team, how does this team compete with 2004? And let's forget about the unbeaten season, so you can't say, oh, nobody would make that 2004 team, because obviously they went unbeaten and different era, a lot less money was being spent back then.
Yeah.
You can't compare, you just can't. Football's moved on, we've got technology now, so those fine margins are now, before they were basically opinion of the referee or the linesman. So how does this this Premier League rank against 2004, and what players would make, not a combined 11, so I don't want to, we haven't really got time for that, we can do that next week, but what players from this Arsenal team would make that team in 2004?
That's a very tough question, I think, because that team in 2004 was just amazing. I'm just thinking.
I mean, while you're thinking, I've got my opinion. I think Gabriel would make that team.
Go for it, yeah.
Not giving anything against Colator, because him and Sol Campbell work really well. But
yeah,
if you're looking at individually, I think Gabriel would have been there. I think Raya would have been goal over Lehmann. Personally, I think Raya would have been chosen over Lehmann. And then I think after that, Saka. I think he's one of those players. I don't think he's had a great season, Saka, and I think he's one of those players who'll probably get overlooked more because they've won. But when you look at his goal contributions to some of the players in the Premier League this season, he's so low down. I don't think he's had a great season. Yeah. So for me, looking at it from a neutral's point of view, I don't think I'd have him over Perez or Lundberg or anyone like that. So I think they were consistent over a full 38 games.
Yeah.
And Rice, maybe. I think Rice would be in there. But I don't think after that, I think that's probably, I don't think I'd change the right back. I think Lorenz was a good right back.
I think, those actually are good shouts, I think. I think Saka, the issue with this season is that he's not had that great a season. I mean, if it was like the past few seasons, then yes, he may have got in on the right there, because he has been really, really good on but some of the previous seasons.
No, and then that's what I mean. That's all, but you kind of look.
Yeah, so both on this one, no.
Obviously, this is a season when they've won it, and that just want to get your advice on it without.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's also for me a bit of nostalgia, because that's the team that I sort of first sort of started sort of watching when I moved over from France to England when I was 8 years old. So there's a bit there's a bit of nostalgia, and I think that's sort of trumping any player from the current sort of team to go and be better than that team, I think. But it isn't necessarily because I think that they're much worse, but it's just in my mind, that team was just sensational.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, yeah, I was going to say, I mean, sometimes you can't compare, sometimes you can, and that's how it is. Just a couple more quickly on this bit. First of all, from the start of the season to the end of the season, how did you think? It's hard. I don't want to say how do you think it panned out because obviously you won the Premier League, but were there any moments at the beginning of the season where you thought, oh, we should be playing better? When Manchester City started chasing a little bit near the end of the season, you're getting a bit worried. What sum up in a very summary the season had in the Premier League?
Yeah, well, when we did this podcast that was a different podcast and we all did our predictions, I did say that Arsenal would win. So basically I was right there. I think it's going to be what every sort of Arsenal fan is going to say, I think, or what most people would say as well is, even though I'm very glad that he won, I think the style of football at times has seemed a little bit, a bit dull. Not as much sort of free flowing football as we have been in the past few seasons. Now, I think Mikel has tried that and like it didn't work, did it? So he's just changed this sort of tactic to sort of try and be more controlling and much better in defense and not being so free flowing going forward. I think the time that was worse was when we went on that losing streak about a month ago where we lost the FA Cup, I think it was semi-final, and then the League Cup, or I think it was League Cup first and then FA Cup, wasn't it, actually?
Yeah.
My City and then Southampton, wasn't it? And that's when I started thinking, oh, could City just just manage to do this again, the past few seasons? But I always believed, because of that, just the way that Arsenal have defended. I mean, I don't know exactly how many sort of goals that were like made. Let me have a look. We conceded 27 in the end, I think. And yeah, I mean, the next team from that is 35. So I think the way that we defended, and we only lost 5 games out of the 38. That is the sort of older style Arsenal, actually, like when they used to be under George Graham,
Yeah.
So in a way, perhaps it's just like trends in football, like these different trends, they come and they go and they come back, don't they? Like the style of football changes because teams get used to that style, and so they change to like an older style and they recycle tactics and stuff like that.
I agree. And the final one, without it being all Arsenal this week, how did it feel watching the trophy lift, watching all the hard work come to the end after 22 years? I mean, I've grown up supporting Port Vale, and I've also grown up obviously supporting Liverpool, and Port Vale. I had a lot of relegations, some promotions like we don't really win, something. But for me, the 2022 playoff final was absolutely amazing, and for Liverpool as well when they won the Champions League in 2005. I mean, I didn't really see Liverpool win a lot more before that. Obviously, I was quite young, so that was just amazing. So for yourself, after 22 years, the Premier League, the big one in division football, how did it feel, and what was the atmosphere at full time? You know, as an Arsenal fan.
It was great. So me and my mate went to the pub and watched it on the telly there, and yeah, just a really, really nice feeling to watch them lift the trophy, and all the players, they lifted it off and did their thing, and the fans as well, just like in the stands, were really just going for it. And there was one particular chant that they did was when Rice was there, and they went Declan Rice, he said, "It's not done, it's not done." And that was just amazing, because that's what he said when that Man City game, and the camera went to his face and went, "It's not done." And then they sang it to him the last day, and just Rice's just has been absolutely amazing for us, and for the players to have that connection with the fans was just amazing. And obviously then they sang every player's song and that sort of stuff, and yeah, it's just great. And the players emotional, and Mikel was emotional as well. And to see Stan and Josh Kroenke there as well, the owners, was pretty cool as well. So yeah,
what did you go to that they played all that?
A great day around. It was the Red Lion in Harts Hill.
They must like you too. No, they're brilliant. That's great stuff. And obviously, we'll have more about Arsenal's match next week. Just let everyone know, if Arsenal lose the Champions League, you can guarantee that week will be postponed, because Tom will feel a little bit ill, or feel a bit tired, or got an headache. So just watch out for that one. Anyway, let's move on to Manchester City. Obviously, an end of an era at Manchester City, not just Bernardo, Silva and John Stones, who announced earlier in the season that they were going to leave this year. News broke last week, which we were going to touch on, but we obviously didn't have an episode about Pep Guardiola leaving as well. He's been there 10 years. All three of them actually 10 years. I mean, that's amazing. I think they've won over 20 trophies in 10 years. I mean, that is, that's unbelievable. So obviously Manchester City, it was a loss, 2-1 loss to Aston Villa, who've had a fantastic season. And we will move on to Aston Villa. So I'm trying to make this week all flowing well. But for Man City, Semenyo on the score sheet again. Watkins proving why he obviously made the England team. Again, which we'll go on a bit later. But obviously, Guardiola took charge for the 593rd and final time. Unbelievable, isn't it, Tom? I mean, none of us have any affiliation to Manchester City, but 20 trophies. How do you think the Premier League's going to go on from here? I mean, Maresca looks like he's going to be coming in, who works alongside Arteta and Guardiola under Manchester City. Maybe he's the perfect candidate to take over, because he's been basically groomed, you could say, by Manchester City. It's going to be a massive, weird change not having Guardiola on the touchline each week, isn't it?
It's going to be a huge difference, yeah, massive. I mean, Pep has done extremely well. I certainly think that he is the best manager, basically, that I've watched a lot of. I watched a bit of Man United under Sir Alex Ferguson, and obviously he is a great as well. But that was when I was a bit sort of young. I think when I was 8 was when I started to see him, and so I think he's one of the Premier League just sort of all-time best managers just in history. And the style of play, I think that we've spoken about that quite a lot in this pod in the past, haven't we, Craig? About how his style of play has seeped into the league and basically all of the different leagues in England. The way the fullbacks they come in the middle, and that whole sort of style of play is something that is his legacy that will undoubtedly stay and live on in football now. So yeah, I mean that's a great legacy, basically, just in itself, isn't it? It's the game like that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And you see a lot of these teams very similar to Slots Liverpool this year, trying to play this sideways football where he's brought in this. It looks on paper that they're just passing it around and they're looking for holes, but when you look at players off the ball who do the work off the ball, like Semenyu's been absolutely amazing from January onwards to become that player that just decoys, similar to Doku. What I'm trying to get at, you see a lot of these teams trying to play like Man City, and sometimes it works against certain oppositions, but other times it just looks like boring football because it's like they know what Manchester City are doing by keeping the ball, but then it's just like, well, what do we do after that? A bit like Slot this year, to be fair. I agree with you. I think, listen, Sir Alex Ferguson, a fantastic manager, and what he did for Manchester United, from where they were, they become a top team, stayed at a top team for a very long time under at Ferguson. But when you look at what Guardiola's done, 20 trophies in 10 years at Manchester City, what he did at Bayern Munich, what he did at Barcelona. It's okay saying he come into teams with a lot of money, but when Barcelona didn't spend a lot of money. Yes, they had great players because that's what their academy does, and he was part of that academy. He was part of, they do the same with the coaches. Barcelona, they bring the players through from the academy and up, and they do the same with the coaches, and that's how he got the role. So it wasn't like he come in and spent loads of money. He was given what he was given, and he made those players play well.
Yeah.
Why would you, people's argument is, well, we need to go to a team that isn't very well, but that doesn't make any sense. If you're the best manager in Barcelona, you don't go to a mediocre team. You go to another team in another league and prove that you're the best manager there. You go to the Premier League, Manchester City, that did okay under Pellegrini and Mancini, but they did okay. They weren't dominant, and they brought in this dominant football in English football. If I'm honest with you, he made that a little bit boring for English football because he did it so well. Like I just said, a lot of the teams tally copies. It just made football a bit boring because they can't do it as well. But for me, I mean, for what he's done elsewhere, I think he's a shout for one of the best managers ever, personally. And I think he's left in England. The English game will not be forgotten. And at his peak when he was pushing Klopp right to the end, I mean, we've never seen that in all the years in the Premier League where Manchester City finished on 99 points and Liverpool finished on 98 points. Imagine being Liverpool and finishing second place with one loss all season, 90. I don't think that, one loss all season. And that's how good Manchester City's Guardiola's Manchester City was, and I think he will be sorely missed. And same with Silva and Stones, quality players.
Yeah.
When you think of Pep Guardiola and Manchester City, you think of Silva, you think of Stones, you think of De Bruyne, you think of Haaland.
Yeah.
And, it just feels like Manchester City now, it's obviously going to be Maresca who's going to come in. It's just about continuing that. And I think Maresca's a fantastic coach. We were talking about this a few weeks back. He obviously fell out with the Chelsea owner because Chelsea owners want, you do this, you do that, and you just coach the players. And like you said, they won the World Cup. They were doing well in the league. Before he got sacked, he was fourth in the league. So I think it'll be a good appointment for Manchester City. How do you feel as an Arsenal fan knowing that Guardiola's out the pitch here, looking for a few more of those Premier League trophies, especially with Slot stay?
Well, I mean, it's sad to see him go. I mean, that's the thing is, I think one of the reasons why City haven't done as well is because there's a bit of a changing of the guard, isn't there? Because what you've been saying, that those key players, a lot of them had left already, and Silva and Stones, I think one of the but like one of the only ones who were there during that sort of peak time of their sort of career when winning league titles and FA Cups, and I think, I mean, there were so many games that we watched City play this season, and Silva's work rate was still fantastic. I mean, he was still amazingly good for, like, how old is he, by the way? He's 31 or something like that, because he's doing very well, isn't he? Like, I mean, for that age, and he still was the one that was sort of holding in midfield, and Rodri as well. Basically him and Rodri. I mean, yeah. So I going forward, I do think that will unsettle City a bit, and they probably won't be as good as they have been.
Yeah.
And then there'll be another team like, well, Liverpool. We're not sure if they'll do that well next season either. I mean, that depends on sort of what they do in the summer in terms of transfers, but also on how Slot, like how he manages, because it seems like Slot is not that great. Because the thing is that he followed Klopp, who arguably I think is like one of the managers who has got the most charisma and is known to be great at sort of getting the culture good of the club and like being good at pep talks and all that sort of stuff. And then Slot comes in, and so like I don't know, and like I think probably like it's hard for Slot because he's followed such a great manager.
Yeah,
but like I mean, probably like that I think probably like a lot of respect has been lost, or it's hard to just sort of gain that respect quickly. You like basically have to earn it through like what you do, don't you, with the players and all that sort of thing. So
yeah.
So not sure who is going to actually come and compete against the mighty Arsenal next season.
Maybe, I doubt it. Obviously, Manchester City played Aston Villa. Aston Villa had an incredible week. Europa League winners against Freiburg. I watched that game. There were some quality goals. I don't know if you watched that game, but wow, some of the goals there. Buendia scored an absolute.
I watched a bit of it. Yeah, great.
Did you see Buendia's goal?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, you're looking at talk about Slot and Salah leaving, which we will do in a minute. Look who's going to come on that left foot like Saladin. You look at Buendia and he's bloody incredible. Also, McGinn, you talk about work rate. McGinn's work rate for Aston Villa, absolutely phenomenal for the age he is. Captain and led by example. Other Arsenal legend, Unai Emery, legend of the game. Took Arsenal to a Europa League final. Fortunately, the players couldn't handle the pressure. Another trophy for him. But also in the league, I mean, last year, 2 seasons ago, they were really good under him. They progressed. And then they've got to the Europa League saying, not, just won it, and then 4th in the Premier League. That's some good, going considering the competition. And then to beat Manchester City on the last day. They're going to head into the Champions League next year, regardless, because obviously they've won. They finished 4th. Unai Emery, though, I think you're talking about managers and some of the best managers. Obviously, he's not one of the greatest. But when you think of knockout European football, especially in the Europa League, I instantly think now of Unai Emery. When I think of him, I just think Europa League. Do you remember when he took Villarreal to the final? He took Sevilla to the final. I don't know what your football knowledge is like, but obviously now then he did the same with Aston Villa. But he's had some big characters to manage as well. Especially like Martinez, who thinks he left Arsenal, thought he was bigger than he was, went to Aston Villa, and then last season I think he was doing a wave goodbye to the fans, expecting a big team to come in, and no one come in for him, and he stayed at Aston Villa. Emery, do you see any progression in Emery's management style since leaving Arsenal? Because a lot of managers leaving a big club like Arsenal, Liverpool, Manchester City, Chelsea, kind of fall down the pecking order and kind of struggle to come back up and kind of prove that they can play at the highest level. What do you feel like he's done that incredibly well, or do you think that's just do you think he just got lucky being at Aston Villa and turning the tables round? Because they were in a relegation spot when he took over.
No, yeah, I think he's done really well at Aston Villa. Yeah, he like he has turned them around, and I mean they're a really good team at the moment. I mean, they played really well against us, didn't they? And they beat us, didn't they? Like this season. So,
Chelsea.
So they are a really, really great team. And the fact, I mean, the fact that I think it's the first time that they've ever been in Champions League, isn't it? This time, like Aston Villa, or like have they been in the past? I mean, they haven't been for a long time. Like if they have,
they've been in the past because they've won it, yeah. But
oh, okay, but not for a long time though, is it?
Yeah.
For many years, like.
But would you say the breaking, because obviously Spurs are still classed as the top 6 club? I personally think now Aston Villa have overtaken Spurs, that big 6 club in English football, because the past 3 seasons,
well, they should be, yeah.
Strength to strength, and they aren't just like lucky goals. They are, you're talking about for and against goals that they scored. They've done better than Liverpool this year for not laying the goals in. Obviously, they did better than Manchester United. They've done better than all the other 3 teams who finished in Europe as well with them. And obviously, you can't really count Chelsea because they've had a really poor season. But when you think of Aston Villa now, you don't think anything above, anything lower than 6, do you? I think there's an argument there.
Well, yeah, I mean, Spurs are absolutely shocking. When I've been for a few seasons now, so like they shouldn't be still. They shouldn't still be known as a big 6 team. No.
I'm chuffed with Emery because Arsenal. I know Arsenal fans have mixed feelings against him, but I do think he had a tough time as well. And you are very emotional at football. You are, Tom. And what I mean by this is when we went to watch Port Vale versus Chelsea, you were so disappointed that opposition fans shout at the corner taker and like, oh, you shouldn't do that. He's just doing his job. But for Emery, he was having the mitt taken out of him, because his English wasn't great, and a lot of, not just Arsenal fans. Obviously, Arsenal fans have gone his back a little bit more because he was their manager. But to pick yourself up, come back to the Premier League after having the abuse you had, and he couldn't say good evening properly, and he couldn't say his V's and B's because obviously, as you know from Spain, the V's and B's are different, and he was kind of being picked on really. But I think to come back into the Premier League, take over from Steven Gerrard, who left Aston Villa, in the relegation zone, and then bring him up to the Champions League, win a trophy on the way. I think it's phenomenal, especially Aston Villa, who were playing in the Champions League not that long, Championship, should I say, not that long ago after being relegated. So, Unai Emery, I'm a massive fan for. I'll be honest with you, I have a real soft spot for him, to be fair. So let's move on to Liverpool quickly. Not a great result, 1-1 against Brentford. Their style of football has a lot to be desired because I don't even know what the game plan is. I think he's just sideways, backwards. Pass to Van Dijk, will try to hit it to Salah, and then be on the back foot. Brentford, nothing against Brentford. They had they really took the game to Liverpool at Anfield. But the main talking point would be the emotional scenes at full time where Salah is leaving, and Andrew Robinson, who I think has been an absolute servant for the club. Before we move on to those 2 players, how difficult it will be for Liverpool's identity to, because they've only got really Van Dijk and Alisson in that squad who won the Champions League. And Salah, obviously, there's been mixed feelings about him from Liverpool pundits and the hierarchy and fans and neutral fans about the way he's been quite, they in their words, would be quite disrespectful, airing his views out on social media against the manager, although it might be right or wrong. I don't know if you saw that post where he said he was in a team where, he Klopp turned believers to doubters to believers and got to play heavy metal football, proper digging at slot. Do you think he's tarnished that from an Arsenal point of view, or do you think he's right in what he's saying? Because then it starts a very dangerous path for players not respecting the manager or the manager's views to speak out against them so publicly.
Well, I've always been more on the on the side of the fence that that's not a good thing to do. That it's his last season. I also think that he hasn't been as good as what he was in previous seasons, and that's because he is getting old, and that's not a negative thing against him. I mean, that's just life. That we start to not get as good as football as like they go on. So I don't think it would have tarnished his his career, though. I mean, he's done amazing things for you guys, hasn't he? Like absolutely amazing things. Like the amount of goals and assists. I think they showed it on TV the other day that like he's third in the top Premier League like goals and assists of like all time. So I mean that is pretty sensational, really. But yeah, my whole thing is I think that you basically do what's right for the club first, and you sort of second, because it's that sort of thing. Especially the way that he did it. He should be sort of humble in the way that if he isn't picked, then that's for the club and like for the best interest of the club, and the manager chooses that, and that's just how it is. And so he should be humble and not be angry about it or sort of throw his toys out the pram, that sort of thing. That's my view on it.
No, I agree, and that's what I mean. Not tarnish his career, but tarnish the representation of who he is.
Yeah,
it has felt like this past when he did the media. Purpose went into the media room, not room, but where they do the walkway, and made comments about his relationship with Slot, and then made that. There's no need. You're 3 weeks away from the end. No, 2 weeks from the end of the season. The season's over. Is there any need to do that? Because a lot, you could say, yes, speaking what a lot of fans are feeling, but as a representation of Liverpool Football Club and professionally is, a lot of these things should be kept behind closed doors, because obviously you wouldn't expect your manager to come out and do the same. But as you said, third in the most goals and assists for the Premier League in half the appearances of the other two, which was Wayne Rooney and Shearer. So in half the appearances to become third as well, which what could have done if he was a bit younger and started his career there. But also Robertson, I think it's a shame really, because a lot of Liverpool's attack over the past 10 years has come from the wings.
Yeah. You've lost both, haven't you? Yeah.
And between them, I think in 2021, I think they had the highest assists from fullbacks in Premier League history for fullbacks. And that a lot of the game was built down the wide, and obviously he's left, I think, because of his own accord. I think he wants to get first team football. Kirk has come in and obviously got better as the season's gone on, but I'm still not convinced. But again, you're looking at eras, and you're looking at when you said about Arsenal and Arteta. When our question was, is it enough in 6 years? And you said obviously after Wenger leaving, it's that transition. Players leave, and then you've got to kind of build the team up.
Yeah.
It kind of feels like that with Salah leaving, Robertson leaving, obviously Jota passed away early in the season. He has leaving. Firmino before Mane. All these players left who've kind of built a dynasty, and not just that. It looks like Alisson's going to be off in the summer as well. It looks like Juve.
Is he?
Yeah,
no way.
Juve are leading to sign him. So nobody's convinced. You don't have to be. You could be Mohamed Ashvili's buddy, most loyal son or daughter, and I still don't think they're convinced he's number one. So this is a big summer for Liverpool, because last season, God knows what happened. Normally they've been very good in the transfer window, brought in the right players. But last season they lost defenders and brought in wingers, lost strikers and brought in midfielders. It was all over the place. And then brought in two strikers who played one position. So there's a big season coming up. Big transfer windows coming up, and I think Liverpool need to probably go back to their roots and sign players who aren't over the £100 million mark, and bring in players who will make a difference to the team and not individual players. What do you think if Liverpool bring in the right players this summer, and where do you see the season going that season for Liverpool? Just give it. What do you think is going to happen? I'll tell you what I think is going to happen. What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah. Well, yeah, they're going to try to. I mean, they just need to strengthen the squad, don't they? I think if they manage to strengthen the squad, then I think they'll do okay. I mean, they haven't done too badly. I mean, like, if you think of sort of where they were going to and how they managed to sort of get things back on track. I mean, they were going to much worse places, weren't they? Like back around Christmas time, but then they managed to sort of work things out. So actually, they haven't done bad in terms of that. I mean, they have in terms of the history of like Liverpool and Anfield and titles and all that stuff, but they haven't done too bad in terms of where they were heading. That's what I think.
No, I agree. Yeah.
So I think as long as they strengthen the squad and get players in the right places, then they should be all good next season and try and be challenging for like the top three again.
Yeah,
that's what I think.
And I still stand by what I say, because you're very much a believer the same way, in an era where a lot of the owners and the boards sack managers when they aren't performing. I think when you've won a Premier League the year before, you played some attractive football the year before, you've had a bad season, you've had obviously what's happened to Jota, which, they aren't just players on a spreadsheet, they aren't just players on, they are, they spend a bit. So I'm still a believer where I think if the hierarchy think he's the right person, and whatever goes on in that dressing room from last season, there must have been signs of winning the Premier League so comfortably. I think he deserves another shot, because he has. If he didn't make Champions League, then unfortunately that's non-negotiable. But unfortunately, I think he's got to be given the chance. Now they've lost Xabi Alonso. Iriola's probably the only one. I think.
I just think, my whole thing is just the same as what you've said. It like in terms of managers, I think this whole thing of sacking a manager after they haven't done what he wanted in one season is just utterly ridiculous, and teams just shouldn't be doing that. So I would give him another season or two actually to like try and turn things around. Yeah,
and to be fair, a lot of Liverpool channels and podcasts are saying, "Oh, we should get Iriolo in because he plays some good football." Liverpool have been down this road before with Brendan Rodgers. Played attractive football for a smaller team, didn't have the ego, so obviously could manage them because he was the manager. Come into Liverpool and just struggled. And he struggled because he's never really won a title. He was never really, you couldn't really look up at him as authority, because what has he won? I'm not saying that should be looked at, but football, especially nowadays, has big egos, and you've got to have a big manager in there to manage him. Yeah. I think if he comes in, with Slot, many people didn't know who Slot was before that, but he had one in Holland, winning the league. So he had that charisma, his own charisma. I do think he's lacking a lot of it. But he had that managerial authority, and he knows where to win competitions. I think going for Iriolo might be the wrong decision at this moment in time. You can look at Graham Potter for Chelsea, failed. Rossini, Chelsea, failed.
Well, yeah. I mean, the other thing is about that is, I think if you go for somebody else, then that then changes the whole thing again.
Yeah.
And then you're not sure if that's going to like upset the apple cart or like that sort of thing. I'm like, at least Slot has come in and won a title, so like he has done something right. So like, why would you then go and just get rid of him? Because like he had like a bad summer of signings and things didn't quite work out, and a transitional period. Like, it doesn't make much sense really.
Yeah, I mean they've missed Alisson a lot of the season. They lost Leone, the only other centre back they had a lot of the season, so they've had to play Konate when he was playing terrible. So yeah, big season coming up for Liverpool. I'm not holding me up. So quickly, because it's getting really hot in this room, and I could do with just moving on to the final bit. No, there's two final bits, and one of them looking ahead now to European football. I'm going to quickly just mention Crystal Palace who got Rayo Vallecano.
Yeah.
The Conference League final. Massive competition when, you know, he gives these teams some big game experience, and I'm really rooting for Crystal Palace. Come Wednesday or Thursday, is it? Wednesday might be.
Wednesday, 8:00. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really rooting for that. I'll be watching that, and a bit like Aston Villa, I was rooting for them as well. But the big one is on Sunday. Now, Tom, I was trying to not ask you a question at the beginning when you mentioned it, because I was trying to leave it for this segment. Arsenal got PSG on Saturday. I thought it was Sunday for some reason, but it's Saturday. Arsenal chasing their first ever Champions League title. PSG, though, you couldn't come up against a better team. Honestly, Tom, they annihilated Liverpool. Their route to the final, you can't even say it was easy. Liverpool, regardless of how bad they played, got to the quarterfinals. No, the last 16. And then they beat Bayern Munich by a lot of goals. They are not scared to go forward either. They're not scared to get their hands dirty. Why do you think, before I get your opinions on how the game's going to go, why do you think after PSG won the Champions League last year and got to the final so easily this year, why do you think they've only got a 30% chance of winning this over Arsenal?
Well, it's like a gut feeling.
And I thought it was calculated.
Gut feeling, and the calculation is because Arsenal have won the league title, and that's the first time in 22 years. And I think that will give the players that extra confidence to now go until next week's game. The other thing is that we have beaten them in this season once before. And I know what everyone says is that that's just when they're warming up, and like, so like now they're on fire and this sort of thing. I do understand that, but Arsenal have, I think they're amazing in defense. I think when they play well, players like Odegaard and Eze, especially Odegaard, like just how he's recently just hit his form. He's so good at drifting in and out of players, and when then he's able to sort of see passes that other players don't. I think he could really create a goal-scoring opportunity against PSG. And I've just got a feeling like this is the year that Arsenal are going to go and do a double.
Well, fair play to you, because I was playing PSG, and you're that. I understand you've got to be confident, but to think, you know, you look at one team who can score a lot. You know, you might look at Arsenal and say, right, they've been defensively solid. When you look at Bayern Munich, so have they in their league season been defensively solid, and PSG.
Well, yeah, but they weren't very good at defending that game. That's the whole thing.
Exactly. So
that game, they like thought they had to go forward first and shoot and score goals. Whereas I think Arsenal don't have to do that.
Yeah, but you're only looking at one game.
Arsenal can actually control the ball.
You're looking at one game.
Doing those things.
You're looking at one game and basing their whole style off one game. I'm looking at their league table, and they've got exactly the same goal difference, exactly the same, bar one goal, for and against that Arsenal have got. So you're looking at their league season to Arsenal's. They could argue the same thing. You know, they've only 28 goals this season.
Okay, yeah.
And they scored 74. I think.
Yeah.
Arsenal scored 72 and Lemon 70, and only. So you can't base one. You know, they were solid against Liverpool, and Liverpool had Ekitike and Isak on that pitch. Again, probably poor assessment. I just want to be so overconfident because it can break your heart, but I'm not saying Arsenal have a chance. I think I've always said when you get to a final, it's 50-50. You know, it's who wants it more on that day. Doesn't matter what they've done previous matches, it literally wants it more. And I've just checked PSG's last game where they lost 2-1, but literally they changed that whole lineup. Very similar to what Arsenal did the weekend. Literally, they are ready.
Try and rest.
Changed the whole lineup for that game. I think only Dembele played, probably bring up his match fitness. You think Arsenal have a 70% chance? Let's think straightforward now. What do you think the score is going to be? Who do you think is going to score the goals? And will the game be won in 90 minutes?
It's difficult. I think it'll be a very tight game, very tight, and I think it'll be probably like a 1-0 or something to Arsenal, and that'll be in full time,
1-0 to Arsenal in full time. Put your bet on, Tom. And is there anything more you want to mention about this this massive game you've got coming up, which could this could be bigger than the league personally, because you're going to win a competition that says you are the best in Europe.
Well, it is. I mean, if we are able to beat PSG, then I think that it'll be good to sort of show to all the naysayers, like against Arsenal, the ones who have said time and time again about set piece FC and like all this type of thing, that like they're boring and they don't know what they're doing and they shouldn't be allowed to win because they're playing in this boring way. I think if we then go and beat PSG, Arsenal and PSG are now the best two teams in Europe. So that would show, sort of the ultimate greatness.
Okay, so Tom, you're melting, aren't you? You are melting. You're getting.
I am literally sweating like there's a puddle on the ground here.
So, guys, I think we're going to leave it to here. And I know I mentioned about Tuchel's big gamble. We're going to bring this up next week because we're going to do a pod next week, and we'll bring up what I want to give any questions to you, viewers, if you're watching, before we have that. Before next week's show, we want to know your thoughts on the England call-ups. There's been some players missing who normally would make the squad, especially on the Southgate. There's been very ifs and buts regarding how many defenders and strikers have been taken. But, all opinions, and at the end of the day, it's very easy to say that from a chair on a computer. So let us know your thoughts on Arsenal, on England's players that have been called up, their chances of the World Cup, and we'll have a bit of a chat about that next week. Final segment of the week. Tom, this is now the last player of the week and howler of the week for the Premier League, or not the Premier League, as in the end of the season. I can't say Premier League. So, who's your player of the week for this week? Do a quick Google search. Have you got a player of the week? Or are you just going?
If you decide yours first, and then I'll decide mine.
My player of the week, who I think has had a fantastic season, I think he, and that sort of has got to be Ollie Watkins. And I've only just made that choice actually because my original choice is going to be Harry Kane for scoring another hat-trick in their kind of domestic cup, FA League Cup kind of squad. They beat Stuttgart 3-0 and he scored a second half hat-trick. And I think the week before that, he scored a hat-trick in the last home game of the season. He is absolutely on fire. He's breaking records at Bayern Munich, records that people only thought Lewandowski would beat and keep. So But unfortunately, he's come second because I want to put Watkins there because he's made a call up. He scored 13 goals since March. He hit 12 goals since March in the Premier League after being left out in Tuchel's squad. He scored in the Europa League final and also he scored against Arsenal this weekend. He's if you want a striker who's going to play alongside or be the backup to Kane at this summer's World Cup, it's got to be Harry Kane. It's got to be Ollie Watkins and then Harry Kane should be second one for this week. My howl of the week is Chelsea. We haven't done a segment on this. I skipped it because I got a bit bored of talking about Chelsea. But unfortunately, Chelsea needed a win against Sunderland, a team that just got promoted this season and couldn't even beat Sunderland, knowing they needed a win would take them to Europe next season. So they've had a poor season, poor management, poor board, poor owners. Howl of the week, howl of the year, howl of the season, just howls in general over Spurs, and that says something. Tom.
So my manager of the week is Mikel Arteta because he's managed to get Arsenal a league title after all these years, and I think he's been a really, really good manager and good person for the club to create a great atmosphere there again. Especially after they changed stadiums from Highbury to the Emirates. I think it's been a key part of that. My howler, I think, has been Tottenham Hotspurs because they managed to just beat Everton 1-0. So
yeah,
that was a bit crap.
Embarrassing as well.
Embarrassing from Everton, really. I mean, they didn't put up a fight at all against them. I mean, I thought they would because West Ham beat Leeds 3-0. So, like, both me and my mates were like in the pub and thinking, "Yeah, come on, West Ham beating Leeds," and then can't believe Spurs managed to beat them 1-0. Typical, fucking jammy.
Well, obviously David Moyes come out and said he really would like to see West Ham stay up because him and Declan Rice won the Conference League, didn't they, at West Ham? And he really, really wanted to beat Spurs, but you're right, they didn't put up a fight, they were poor. And it's typical Spurs to
yeah, it was so Spursy, isn't it?
so far. Yeah. But I'm going to call that now, Tom, because it's a really hot one tonight, and I think we've done an hour now, so
we done well.
Yeah. So, is there anything more you want to say, Tom?
No, I think that was it. Thanks for listening, everyone. I hope you found it fun and entertaining. Until next week, see ya.
See you all, and see you next week. Hopefully, PSG make us all very happy.